And a hand shot out and...
She deserved to die. She deserved it. I'm sorry. She did. She deserved it. What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another video. Today, we have SCP-106 The Old Man. Now, you might be saying we've already reacted to this, but we actually haven't. We reacted to his origin story from the Volgun, and I want to get to know more about his abilities and more about what he actually is. Obviously, in that, it was just his backstory from World War I and kind of how he went into that pit and how the original guy changed, right? It was titled The Young Man, right? So this hopefully gives us more details in his actual abilities and if he's contained. He's obviously contained by the Foundation, so I want to know more about that. And both videos were requested, so yeah, today we're going to react to this. If you are new, be sure to hit that subscribe button and leave me some suggestions down below. You can join our Discord.
Horror is a lot of things to a lot of people.
This is horror.
For some, it's a parking lot at night, or a dark forest, or walking into a spider web.
All three.
For others, it's clowns, or heights, or public speaking.
5.
For many, though, horror...
Most of those I would agree with. Almost all of them. Not clowns. Clowns aren't that scary, to be fair. Clowns aren't scary. They're not scary, but they're not that scary, you know what I mean?
Horror is simply something utterly horrific. Which brings us to SCP-106. 106 is another classic SCP whose continued popularity has put it at the forefront of the SCP universe. Much like SCP-096, SCP-173, SCP-076, and others, 106 is another inhuman monster with no regard for human life that can't seem to be killed.
And he's got the smile.
Unlike many of those dangerous SCPs, however, 106 seems to take a certain amount of pleasure in torturing humans.
And Abel doesn't.
Let's look at exactly how 106 is considered horrific, and a couple tales that might explain where it came from. SCP-106 is a humanoid resembling an elf.
This is not what I want to see. Actually, now that I think about it, Abel doesn't really torture humans, he just kills them, you know what I mean?
Elderly male, undergoing advanced decomposition. It can scale any vertical surface and hang there indefinitely while waiting for prey.
Hell no.
It is not exceptionally agile, so it relies more on ambush tactics, capable of staying motionless for days if necessary.
So you can't outrun him then?
One of 106's main anomalous properties is its ability to corrode all solid matter it touches, from plant matter to metal, and especially to living tissue.
Of course.
This effect will continue for 6 hours after 106 removes its touch. This corrosion appears as rusting, rotting, and cracking, and also causes a black, mucus-like substance to coat the object, similar to the substance covering 106 itself. 106's second main anomalous property is its ability to pass through solid matter, which leaves behind a patch of corrosive mucus.
God. This guy's a nightmare. Already, he's one of the creepiest ones. Like, just imagine seeing this guy, man. Every time I walk through a door, I'm gonna have to look up to make sure he's not there now. That's what I mean.
This ability seems to be connected to 106's capability of entering a pocket dimension. That is, a small alternative dimension created and controlled by 106.
Great.
This pocket dimension seems to be comprised mostly of halls and rooms, and serves as a hunting ground for 106.
What does he hunt?
106 can enter this pocket dimension by traveling into any surface, and can return from the dimension from any surface connected to the entry point, such as entering a wall and coming out the ceiling, or entering an interior wall and coming out the exterior. 106 combines these abilities to hunt prey, generally humans from 10 to 25 years old, and incapacitates them with a touch.
My 10 to 25.
Usually, it will damage major organs, muscle groups, tendons, or bones, leaving...
Why does he go 10 to 25? Is there a reason? Because that includes me. I do not want to be hunted by this fraud. Look at him.
The individual injured, but alive. It will then pull the person into the pocket dimension, where it will likely continue to toy with it. As you can imagine, containment of 106 is a little tricky, as it can corrode anything it touches and walk through walls. It has been found that for some reason it has an aversion to lead, leading to the use of lead-lined steel in its containment unit. This containment unit is then surrounded by 40 layers of more lead-lined steel, each spaced apart from one another, and the entire thing is suspended off the ground. The secondary containment area consists of 16 spherical cells filled with different liquids, and a randomized assembly of surfaces and supports. It seems that 106 becomes confused when faced with complex and/or random assemblies of structures.
Good.
Additionally, the secondary containment area is fitted with light systems capable of automatically flooding the area in extremely bright light, which 106 also has an aversion to.
Wonder why.
Although these measures don't completely contain 106, they have worked to cut down on the overall number of containment breaches. The entire containment area is under constant 24-hour human surveillance, and any corrosion effect seen within 200 meters of 106's containment cell is cause for alarm.
Yep. Good.
106 does tend to break containment fairly often, however, occasionally lying in feigned dormancy for months at a time to lull staff into assumed security.
Nope.
After breaching containment, 106 will cause large amounts of corrosive damage to Foundation property, and abduct as many people as possible back to its pocket dimension. Upon a breach, Foundation staff will repair the containment area as quickly as possible, and then bring in a human in the 10 to 25 age bracket.
Oh, sacrifice.
Typically a D class.
Great. You get sacrifices too. Very nice. Just sacrifice one guy. Even though he's already gone and killed half of the people at this place after he broke out, let's just give him another guy so he can come back. You're basically bait. You're basically like on a fishing rod, you know? And then they're waiting for the sharks to come and eat you, you know, so they can trap it.
Once ready, staff will injure the subject, usually by cutting the Achilles tendon or breaking the thigh bone, causing them to become immobilized. They will be placed in the containment cell, and their wails and screams will soon bring 106 back. If this does not occur, more trauma might need to be inflicted on the subject, or multiple subjects might be brought in. Physical damage seems to have no effect on 106, of course.
Bro, those are two of the most painful injuries to get. These guys just cut your my Achilles. Or they crack your thigh bone, your femur. That's fucked up. That is like the biggest bone in the body.
So containment is so far the Foundation's only solution. That's SCP-106 as presented in the main document, but its popularity has caused a number of tales to pop up related to it. The most popular of these is titled The Young Man, and offers a potential origin to 106. The story takes place during World War I, centered around a corporal named Lawrence. Lawrence was a soldier that followed orders and fought as a soldier should, but had trouble fitting in. Nobody liked Lawrence, not due to lack of trying, but due to Lawrence being wired differently than others.
Look how muddy that trench is.
He was quiet and still, kept to himself in the trenches, but everyone seemed to feel naturally uneasy around him.
Makes sense.
For the most part, Lawrence was utterly average, in height, weight, appearance, talent, and so on, but he did possess some small notable quirks. He tended to stare at people slightly longer than was acceptable, and would often mumble in his sleep, rambling about odd, unsettling things. One soldier heard him mumble the name of his daughter, followed by a muffled giggle, causing the soldier to move to another barracks.
Correct.
Lawrence and 14 others were sent across no man's land to the enemy trench.
If you don't move after that, you're stupid, okay? I might have shot him first, before I left.
To secure it, after it had gone silent for several days. It was theorized by many that Lawrence was sent more to just get him away from most of the soldiers than due to his combat prowess. Many seemed to hope that Lawrence would be killed in the process. During the following 3 days, as Lawrence and the other 14 were away, the rest of the soldiers in the trench began to discuss the odd man. None of them ever remembered him discussing his home, and he never seemed to write any letters or receive any. He would often mention his dreams, but overall seemed to lack any passion. Questions about Lawrence floated up to the higher commands, as no one was able to actually find his station orders, or really any paperwork whatsoever about him. He'd come with a reinforcement squad from France, but none of the other reinforcements had seen him before, as they were a group of a number of different squads brought together. Nearly every man who shared a bunkhouse with him had gotten trench foot, and he seemed to leave behind a musty and sickly sweet smell. Whispers began to spread of Corporal Lawrence being a curse. Regardless, Lawrence and the other soldiers crossed no man's land and made it to the German trench, only to discover it empty and silent. The trench was completely devoid of life, even insects and rodents were absent. They did discover a sticky slime that seemed to have pooled into every divot and crack. Overall, the trench was in ruins, with nothing living or dead found, until one of the soldiers discovered the remnants of a human body. Flesh had somehow been smeared across the entire floor of a barracks, rotten bones sticking out at random angles, and the skull was resting on a bunk bed with 10 fingertip bones crammed into the eye sockets.
I've already heard this once.
More remains were soon found. A ring of hands with the fingers interlaced. 2 men in a tunnel with leathery skin, thin as mummies, covered in an oily black scum. The latrines were overflowing with excrement and...
I bet that's how his pocket dimension actually looks. Like this trench.
Organs. The surface dotted with thousands of eyeballs.
Oh.
By this point, many of the men were loudly discussing retreating from this nightmare.
What do you mean? I would have been running.
Corporal Lawrence was still rummaging around when he discovered a hole. It seemed to be the entrance to a natural cavern, and a private watched as Lawrence peered in before sliding in head first. The private rushed over to assist, but could see nothing in the inky blackness of the hole. He heard rustles of movement and the sound of liquid shifting, followed by a repulsive stench that sent the private retching. The rest of the soldiers came over, and soon Lawrence returned from the hole, pale and shivering, covered in a tarry black ooze. He began vomiting out more of the same black slime, shuddering and shaking constantly.
Disgusting.
Once he finally stopped, the soldiers grabbed him and quickly retreated from the trench, half dragging Lawrence with them.
I would have left him.
When they made it back to the other trench, they collapsed in a gasping, sobbing pile. The coherent ones were debriefed, and the strange sights were dismissed as battle fatigue and strange gas weapon tests.
Eh? Just thousands of eyeballs looking at you in a pile of shit. Okay.
Lawrence said little of his time in the hole, saying that he fell into an underground pool, or buried latrine, struggled for a bit, and climbed out.
So this man thought he was storing up what? Shit. He swallowed all that shit when he went in there. I mean, he's not normal, so I guess.
He was told not to discuss the events, and oddly seemed in better spirits than he was before. Lawrence became more talkative, rambling about the joys of confined spaces, and of creation and destruction. Constant smiles spread across his face, and the other soldiers wished for the old Corporal Lawrence to come back.
He couldn't get any worse.
One private told a friend that he had awoken one night to find Lawrence standing over him, his eyes gleaming.
I would have bayoneted him.
They found the private the next day, caught in some barbed wire. His intestines spread around him in every direction.
Told you should have bayoneted him.
A few days later, a wasting sickness came upon the soldiers in the trench.
This bayonet right here would be in his fucking eyeball, dude, if that was me.
Eating their flesh like acid and causing it to become oozing and blackened. Many died from the sickness, and Lawrence was sent to a hospital, although he was later transferred to a mental ward after assaulting a nurse, resulting in her losing 3 fingers and the vision in her right eye.
How did he do that?
Lawrence would quietly rant to other patients about endless halls, pursuits in the dark, and flesh laid out like pages in a book.
Disgusting.
His behavior became increasingly unstable and unsettling, and would occasionally vanish entirely from the ward, only to return several hours later with no explanation. The strange wasting sickness that consumed his trench followed him wherever he went, and although numerous attempts were made to transfer Lawrence, no paperwork could ever be found about the man. One November night, however, Lawrence and 18 men disappeared between a 5-minute nurse rotation.
That's one thing I don't understand about him, and I said it in the last video, I was like, how did he have no paperwork and no one knew who he was before? It's not like he was a normal guy before he fell into that ooze. He was still a weirdo, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
The room reeked of rust, oil, mold, and sweet rot, with thick swaths of black ooze covering the floor, beds, and walls. A spiral of human teeth was found under a bed, with the total number accounting for every missing person except one. The corporal was never seen again after that, nor were the other patients, and the incident was forgotten amidst the countless horrors of war. Stories emerged, however, of strange deaths, disappearing men later found broken and twisted, and of a strange dark figure stalking the towns of Europe. So, that's one possible explanation for where 106 came from. And even though part of the appeal of the SCP universe is the inherent mystery of the anomalies, some may appreciate a backstory. Even within this backstory, though, there are still some questions to be had, as it doesn't completely answer what happened to Corporal Lawrence. Was it some sort of singular alien entity that took over Lawrence and made him into 106? Or was it simply exposure to an unknown substance? And there could be potentially numerous 106s in existence.
Please no.
Like everything else, feel free to ignore this, or any other tale about 106, if it doesn't suit your fancy. Another potential explanation for 106 comes from the tale Until Death. I won't go into as much detail about this one, and really this tale is only effective if you're already familiar with SCP-3001,
No.
Red Reality.
Not yet.
The tale focuses on an older female researcher working late at night, alone in a Foundation facility.
Why are you alone?
She hears a noise in the corner of the room and gets up to inspect it, when suddenly the lights go out, leaving her in darkness. She turns on her phone.
That's why you don't work alone at night. God damn, man. These people need me to coach them, because this is a disgrace.
Phone's flashlight and looks back at her desk to find a bloody human kidney resting on her papers.
And you're not running away yet.
The noise she heard becomes thicker somehow, and she sees a black smear across a wall.
You're still not
the
running.
Paint and plaster corroding away.
Oh, she's still not running though.
She walked towards the wall, and a hand shot out and...
She deserved to die. She deserved it. I'm sorry. She did. She deserved it. That's all I can say. Alright, the setup was bad. She's working alone at night. Okay. That's a big mistake. The next thing that happens is all the lights turn off. So you take your phone out, you take your torch out. You don't leave like a normal person and go outside or try to switch the power back on or whatever. You look in your office and you see just a kidney. Just a lone kidney. That still doesn't make you run. Okay, it doesn't make you run. You see black ooze on your wall. You're still not running. You go towards it. She deserved what happens.
And grabbed her arm.
Good.
The black slime melting through her lab coat.
Good.
SCP-106 emerges from the wall, decrepit and rotten, and begins walking towards her, grinning.
Yep.
Black foulness dripped off of him, and the researcher ran out of the lab towards the night guard.
Now you run.
As she met up with him, 106 came into sight, still following her. The guard fired 3 shots at 106, causing it to stop and fall to the ground, sinking through the floor.
I know it's gonna call upon to you.
It's revealed that this is the first ever sighting of 106, and they have no idea what they've just witnessed. 106 appeared through the ceiling above the guard, dripping acid on his face, and proceeded to messily kill the man. The researcher had twisted her ankle and slowly limped away into the guard station.
Of course you did.
As she entered, however, she fell into the melting floor, her skin burning away due to the black ooze. She fully descended into the blackness, and she stopped feeling any pain. She was in a room she didn't recognize, and saw a dilapidated hallway in front of her, realizing that she was in some sort of alternate dimension. Optimistic that she could find a way out, she limped around, eventually opening a door and walking into her old apartment. Since this building had apparently been torn down 20 years ago, she was quite confused. Everything seemed to be in place as it was, but when she went to open a closet, a pile of dismembered corpses fell out on top of her.
Great.
After flailing and gagging, she got out of the mess and recognized one of the faces as the night guards. 106 emerged from the back of the closet.
So he stores his victims' faces in a closet. I mean, he doesn't need clothes, does he? They just dissolve off, so it does make sense.
Closet, and she began running again.
Why?
Now realizing that this was some sort of twisted version of the facility she worked in. She made her way back to the guard room where she had first entered this dimension, hoping that there was a similar way out, as 106 continued to chase her.
Probably very slowly too.
Just barely, she makes it into the guard room and sinks through the same floor, re-emerging in the real facility.
I thought you'd have to go through the ceiling, since you came through the floor.
She hits the alarm button, but 106 is stopped right behind her.
Surprise.
She realizes that this entity has taken the night guard's throat and put it into its own throat, causing a growling sound.
Eh?
The growling sound builds in intensity, becoming a word. Red. This is followed by 2 more words, which are both Anna. The realization slammed into her, and 106 took 2 steps towards her, holding up its hand where the ring had been. She was frozen, unable to move or think, and 106 finally reached out to touch her cheek. The flesh began dripping from her face, and 106 leaned in to kiss her, melting and fusing her face to his. She screamed, but it was useless as her tongue had also melted, and her throat was filled with molten muscle. The 2 sunk through the floor together, locked in a final embrace. This tale is both a backstory to SCP-106.
That is so disturbing. Oh, that is so disturbing. That's just a melt. What's he doing?
As well as an epilogue to SCP-3001, showing that Robert Scranton did manage to make it out of the red reality, but no longer as a human. If I can speak personally, although I acknowledge the creativeness of the tale, I don't particularly care for it as an ending to Scranton's story. There are plenty that disagree with me, of course, and it's a popular alternative backstory for 106.
I don't think it's true.
Whatever you care to think of 106's origins, the old...
Look at him, man. He's so ugly. So fucking ugly. Looks like the guy's a fat lost. This guy, I don't know if this Scranton guy is meant to be that guy's ex-boyfriend or something who died in the red reality or some shit, or went into it or whatever, but no.
The man is certainly one of the more horrific entities on the SCP Wiki, at least as far as body horror is concerned.
I just think, in general,
it's not everyone's favorite, and of course shows some of the signs of an early SCP, but we can all agree we'd rather not meet him in a dark alley.
Correct. I mean, what do you mean in a dark alley? I'd rather not meet him anywhere. God. I would like to hear again state that 106 is not as commonly believed, a basic predator on par with an advanced shark. 106 is a sentient being, albeit a totally alien one. 106 appears to be aware of several things beyond the scope of pure instinct and genetic memory. 106 constantly breaches at moments where recovery and containment are most difficult. A fox may see his way out of a trap, but only a man will wait for his captors to look away to escape. Dr. Alak. On sentience in contained humanoids. I mean, that's true. When an animal gets stuck in a trap, they don't wait for you to not look. They struggle as hard as they can until they get out or die or whatever, so... yeah. You know, after we watched the first video on his backstory from Volgun, I didn't think this guy could get any more disturbing. I was wrong. I was very wrong, because... Jesus. He is very disturbing. That whole bit about the red reality thing, that shit is really fucked up. Yeah, it definitely gave me a bit of a freak, you know, it's freaked me out, bro, that guy. Yeah, definitely one of the scariest SCPs that I've run into so far. But yeah, man, if you enjoyed this reaction, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more videos. Be sure to suggest me a video down below, and I'll see you all next time.